So now that you've decided on a communication goal, it's time to start thinking about how to tailor your communication effort for your audience.
That means forming an accurate mental picture of who your audience is so that you can define more about them.
Absolutely. And you do this by asking a number of different kinds of questions. And you can do this in a couple of different ways. And there are some things that you can get to know ahead of time and some things that you're going to have to figure out a little bit more on the fly. So you can ask questions of the organizers or even of yourself about things like the demographics of your audience. Are they going to be older? Are they going to be younger? Is there going to be an equal gender balance of the audience? Are they going to be scientists? Are they not going to be scientists? But you can also ask information about things like the context that you're speaking about and to get to make some decisions about your communication effort based on that. And there are going to be some things that you're going to have to figure out on the fly. And luckily, if you're giving a live presentation, you have the capability to be able to ask those questions of your audience as you're going along.
And asking questions lets you learn more about your audience. For example, learning about their demographics, their identity, and what their specific background knowledge is will help you define what their motivations are, what matters to them about the science you're presenting, and what might pique their interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to put a plug back to one of our original series, this is also where it's really helpful to get some insight from people who've done this type of work before. So I'll remind you that if you're trying to get to know an audience for the first time, our Expert Voices series is a really good resource for you to be able to go and learn about some of these things in advance. Because remember, if you can align your goals with your audience's goals, then your communication is much more likely to be successful.
Definitely. And another advantage is if you're in person giving a live presentation, you can actually interact with your audience. So you could ask them questions, use straw polls, having them raise their hand to give a response, or you can actually have them verbally respond. You could have a guided discussion to learn more about what they know about your scientific topic. And it's important to listen and learn about your audience from that discussion. It can tell you a lot about how best to tailor your communication effort in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to highlight, though, that there's a little bit of a difference between a live presentation and when you're writing for a public audience. There's not going to be as much that you can do to adjust on the fly if you're doing something in a written piece. And so in that particular case, it's really important to understand as much about your audience as you can in advance in order to be able to target your writing effectively. And I want to highlight that in addition to our Expert Voices series, there are lots of additional resources for you to tap to learn about these types of audiences. So for example, you can talk to the editor of whatever kind of outlet that you're writing for, or you can talk to your peers who might have done similar writing in the past. And there are specific people whose entire jobs it is to help you learn about these types of audiences, people like public relations and government relations officers, usually available at your institution. So it's really important that you utilize these resources as you're getting into this space.
I totally agree with you. So tapping into these resources will help you understand who your audience is. And that lets you better define how your goal might meet their needs. Because remember, Elise said earlier, if your goal matches their goal, your communication will be so much more effective. So learning as much as you can about your audience ahead of time will help you make sure that your communication goal meets the needs of your audience and make sure that your communication effort is effective. Learning about your audience is also important to defining what kind of language you'll use in any given communication effort, and that's what we'll talk about next.